In this video, we're going to learn a new set of morphs. So we're going to mix a bunch of things together here. We've got a couple prefixes, a couple suffixes, and a bunch of roots. And again, I'm doing a theme. This time it's earth and sky, so things related to physical geography and some astronomical terms as well. So let's get started with our prefixes. So the prefixes, I start with ones for height and depth. So starting off with acro. Acro is a prefix which means high. It's a Greek prefix. You can kind of tell by the O. But we see it in words like acrobat, right? But also acrophobia, which is the fear of heights, and acropolis, which is a high part of a city, right? So it forms a number of words with the sense of high up. The Latin version of this is alti, right? Same meaning, but this is the Latin form. So this might be a little bit more obvious words like altitude, which literally means the height of something. For deep, we've got bathy. Maybe not the most common one, most common prefix that you'll find, but we definitely have words, technical words that use bathy as their prefix. So things like bathyscope for looking in the depths, usually of the ocean, a bathyscaphe, right, like a deep submersible. So we do see it in some words. Oh, and bathy comes from Greek. Right. Similarly, or maybe along similar lines, we've got some words for heavy. So first up, bar and bari. You can see either form of this, and this is a Greek root. So we can talk about, for instance, barometric pressure. It's the sense of the measure of heaviness of pressure in the air. But you'll also sometimes see it with the Y in there as well. The Latin version of this is grave. Right, often with that I in there. This is our Latin word for heavy. So gravity is a heaviness. It pulls us down to the earth. Even words like grave comes from this. I think that's grave is a heavy, serious concern. Okay, few more for this list. Some words for across and beyond. So I've got trans. Trans is a Latin one. Its sense is across or beyond, or maybe on the other side of. Lots of words in English start with trans, transmit, transfer, right? All sorts of things. We've learned fair as well, so transfer is literally to bring across. Transliterate, translate, a similar sense. Okay, we also have ultra. Also from Latin. Ultra simply has the sense of beyond. Think of light and ultraviolet. Ultraviolet is the color beyond visible spectrum of light. And we use ultra in many other cases as well. The last prefix I have for today is sub. Sub you can probably guess, even if you've never officially learned it. It's a Latin ending, and it means under, right? So like a submarine goes under the water. So some sense of under or beneath with sub. All right, moving on to our roots. First up is agra. Agra means field. Nope. Field. And it is a Latin root. It comes from Latin ager, agris, and ager, agri. And so it has a base form of ager, A-G-E-R, just doesn't show up in English words, so we only really need to learn the combining form. So we find this in words like agronomy or agriculture more commonly, and things related to agriculture like agribusiness and so forth. We learned dendra as a Greek root for tree. The Latin root for tree is arbor. Its base and combining form are the same, so we only have to learn the one form. Probably the most obvious one for this is the Arboretum. So if you had a chance to visit the Arboretum, you will know that it is literally a place for trees. It's full of trees. But we find other words like arboreal and so forth that come from it. Next up, aster or astra. So our base and our combining form of the word star, right? And this comes from Greek. So you can probably think of words that use this. Astronomy, and a lot of words in astronomy, aster and astra means star. The Latin form for star is stel, right? But it's less common, so I didn't add it to the list, but you'll still see stel. When you think about things being stellar, for instance, or interstellar, between stars, it does show up. It's just that aster, astra is a bit more common. Okay, going maybe with some other astronomy words. we'll go in a little rush here. Cosm. Cosm means the universe. So if you've ever heard people talking about cosmic something, it just means relating to the universe. It is, however, also has a broader sense of order, and from that broader sense of order, we get the sense of makeup, of ornament, and therefore makeup. And so cosmetics as well comes from this, but it comes from a related word, cosmetos. But cosm is at the root of both like cosmic and cosmetic, and this is a Greek root here. Okay. Another star one, or another astronomy one, galact. Galact is a bit weird. It is from the Greek, and it literally means milk, but we have used it, we've extended its sense to galaxy. Right? And this is because in ancient Greece, the Milky Way, which was easily visible in the ancient Greek sky, looked like to them a spray of milk across the sky. And so we have this connection between a galaxy and milk in our mind, right? And our word galaxy comes from the word for milk in Greek. And so we use galact, which is the combining form, in words like intergalactic. Okay. How about our words for sun? I'm going to give you both the Latin and the Greek this time. The Greek is Heli. So Helios is the Greek god of the sun, but we can talk about things that are related to the sun with Heli. The Latin one is Sol, which we see in kind of common words like solar, solar energy, solar panel, right? All of these have a sense of pertaining to the sun. Along with that sense of the sun, I'm going to add one of our roots for light. We actually are going to learn 2 or 3, I think. But this one is our Greek root. Phos is its base form, phot is its combining form. And so the phos is less common, but you will see it in a word like phosphorus. Phot is more common, right? And especially with that O, think of photosynthesis, photograph, all of these things involve the use of light. Okay. Maybe the opposite of light is shadow. So we'll also learn umbra, U-M-B-R. This is shadow. This is a Latin word. Umbra, perhaps not the most common root, but we do see it used in some everyday words. An umbrella is a little shadow, but you also see it in some astronomical terms, thinking about like shadows cast on the moon. The penumbra, for instance, comes from this. Pen, a prefix meaning the almost, something like that, like in peninsula. A peninsula is almost an island. Okay, going back down to the Earth for a bit. The Earth itself, probably the most common root, is geo, right? So technically it's just the GE, but we often see it with the O. And this is our Greek root for Earth. We actually learned ter, right, is the Latin one already. So geography, geology, all of these words use geo in them. Some words for time. The Greek root for time is chron, think of chronology. The Latin word for time is tempor. This is the combining root. And so temporal, right, or temporary, right, subject to time. Okay, just trying to make sure I don't skip any on my list. Let's do glass next, G-L-A-C. It's a little hard to pronounce by itself because that C often gets followed by an I and becomes something like glacial or interglacial or glaciate or glaciation or words like this. So glass here, the sense is ice and by extension sometimes just cold. The opposite of this is therm. Although therm is a Greek root, but therm is heat. Thermal, thermic, right? Lots of words using therm to indicate heat. Okay. Some words for stone. I'm going to give you guys both lith and petra, which actually both come from Greek, but they both have the sense of stone. Lith, we talked about like the Paleolithic, Mesolithic, the Old and Middle Stone Ages. Petra, think of a word like petrify, right? Which literally means to turn into stone. And petroleum, which literally means stone oil. Words like that. Okay. Fire. We learned pyre, the Greek root for fire, but also very common is igni, which is our Latin. Ignite, Ignatius, right? These kinds of words all come from this Latin word for fire. Words for the sea, right? I'm really just going to give you mar for the sea. which is a Latin root. Marine, right, and words related to that, maritime. These all come from the Latin word for the sea. The Greek word for the sea, you see Pontus and Thalassos, but neither of those are very commonly used in English, so I'm not going to bother with them here. I've got two words for to turn. So I'm going to give you both the Greek version, which is gyre, right? Think of a gyroscope, gyrate, and the Latin version, which is trope. In this case, it is a verbal root, but we don't really use the passive stem, so I'm just going to give you the one stem. Trope. Heliotropism, for instance, if you've never heard that term, it is the tendency of plants to turn towards the sun, right? Literally, the practice of is the ism. Trope is to turn, and helio is to the sun, is the sense. Loon. Just down to a couple of the roots here. Loon is our major root for moon. It is a Latin root for words like lunar and lunate and so forth. The Greek root is selene. You see it very rarely. It just doesn't show up that often, so we're not going to bother with it for our lists here. Vent. Vent is from a Latin word for wind. So ventilate, ventilation, anything like that has a sense of wind, air, something like that. And then our last of the roots is going to be phys. Phys is from a Greek word meaning nature. So physics, physical, all of these kinds of words come from phys. All right, so that's it for our roots. Last up are our suffixes, and so I have just a couple here for you today. First up, acious, A-C-E-O-U-S, and acious, A-C-I-O-U-S. They are essentially slightly different spellings of the same Latin root, and they are both adjectival in their nature, right? These both indicate adjectives, with a sense of something like abounding in, given to, belonging to, something like that. Next up is restive, something like that. It has an adjectival sense, meaning pertaining to, having to do with, right, our usual adjectival idea. But we will also see it sometimes as nouns that could be noted. Think of a captive is someone who has been taken, literally. And so iv has become by conversion also a noun ending. We have learned so far one verb suffix, and I think I said that they're more rare to find. We learned eyes, right, which is to do some kind of action, and we're going to add two more now. We're going to add phi, F-Y, which is a Latin verb ending that means something like to make or do. So you can think of words like deify. This is literally to make into a god from the Latin root deus, which we'll learn eventually. So words like deify have this phi ending, meaning to make or do. You will often also see it combined with ik to make ific, and so think of a word like beatific, pertaining to making beat, blessedness, right, something like that. So you will see it combined with the ik ending. And last up is ate. I've saved it for last year because it is kind of a triple threat. It can be a verbal ending, it can be a noun ending, and it can be an adjective ending. So as an adjective ending, it has that basic adjectival sense of like having to do with, pertaining to. As a noun, it tends to mean something like a group of or a thing which. Think of a senate. A senate literally is a group of old people, right? It comes from the Latin word for senex, for old person, like senile. And then it can make a verb. And with a verb, the sense is to have done something. Right? So to repatriate is to have gone back to your fatherland, literally. Right? So we can see it in examples of adjectives, nouns, and verbs. It just appears everywhere. So 8 is kind of a rough one because it does so much. All right, so that's it for our list. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.